Hi everyone, this is Miss Jones. Today we will be doing our first set of notes. It's a little bit of introduction to earth science. I just wanted to get you used to how these notes will sound, what they might look like, and what you can expect on a regular basis when you're at home. I figured the best way to do that is to show you in class. So as with any science class or any course in general, you have to start somewhere. So for us, we need to start with talking about what earth science is. So the definition of earth science is just the study of the earth and the universe. It's important to note that earth science does also include the universe. So, really a better title for an earth science class might just be, a universe science class, I suppose, because the earth is just part of it. We spend a lot of attention on it, mainly because obviously this is the planet that we live on, so it's more important to us, but we will study a lot about the different planets and outer space and the universe in general. The study of earth science began thousands of years ago. As you can imagine, some of the very beginnings of any science can be, considered to be earth science, because obviously some of the things that interested scientists most were things about the earth. One really common example of that you hear all the time growing up is people thinking that the earth was flat, and the first people exploring and realizing that the earth was in fact round. That could be considered part of earth science. They were discovering things about our earth. They were discovering how things work. Now, the way earth science goes, it assumes that everything can be explained. It's based on the facts that when we talk about the universe, we assume that we understand the universe, that we know exactly how it all works. So you kind of have to go with that basis of assumption for everything to make sense. There are a couple main branches of earth science. The first being solid earth, and that falls under something we call geology. So solid earth is going to have to do with things like minerals, different elements. We'll talk about all of that. We'll have a whole section. You guys will learn the different minerals that exist on earth and how to identify them. Things that fall into this as well are things like faults, and landforms, things like that. So mountains, volcanoes, all those sorts of things. Another important section is oceans. As many of you I'm sure have heard, most of our earth is obviously made up of water. There's more water than there is land. So obviously the oceans are a very important part of the earth. We don't think about them perhaps as much, especially living in Illinois, but they are a very important part. So it is important that we pay attention to them and we understand what's going on there. The other part would be atmosphere. This can be meteorology. A lot of times this is also referred to, and we will refer to this as well, as weather and climate. So this is just talking about the different, obviously the climates, the way they occur, why we have different climates in different regions of the world, as well as weather, why things happen, what happens when you have a cold front and a hot front meeting, different things like that, how they can cause different storm systems to form, and all sorts of interesting things, and how landforms can affect that. That all is included in the atmosphere. And then of course the fourth, which I mentioned earlier, being the universe, also known as astronomy. So this will be the section that we will start off with. We won't talk about that much today, but when we start doing the different units, we're actually going to start with astronomy, and we're going to work our way down. We're kind of moving this list backwards actually a little bit, starting with astronomy, then moving on. I think meteorology is after astronomy. Another sort of branch of earth science, which is considered to be something kind of like a newer branch of earth science, would be environmental science. You can kind of group that in. You can consider it its own, or it can be grouped in with earth science. And all that is just talking about how humans affect the environment. So that's why it's kind of a lot of times grouped in with earth science, because it takes all of the aspects of earth science and talks about how we as humans affect that and what change it has on there. So why does it matter? What difference does it make what the universe is made of? What difference does it make what's in the atmosphere? What difference does it make what minerals exist? Well, we can do a lot of things with that information. One thing that comes from earth science is being able to predict disasters. Without knowing when disasters happen, we wouldn't be able to give any warnings to the people that those disasters occur to. The reason we know that hurricanes are coming when they are because of the fact that we know so much about earth science. Same thing with things like tsunamis. We know when tsunamis occur because we know how to track earthquakes, and we know how they will affect the oceans, and we know what can happen from them. The more we know, the easier it makes us to help predict those sorts of things. Another reason is it helps us find our place in the universe. Without studying space and what's out there and figuring everything out, we wouldn't know how things worked. There was a time when everyone thought that, the planets and the sun circled around the Earth. Well, there wouldn't be a very good understanding of where we are in the world if we didn't understand that, that doesn't work like that. Obviously, we know that now, but earth science is the reason why. Also, exploring the, universe for, other intelligent life out there. These are all things that fall under earth science. These are all things we are able to do because we study this science, which could potentially lead to some, really big things later in the world. And then finally, just to be able to find resources. Knowing things about geology and how different minerals are formed and the conditions that are necessary to form them helps us know how to locate things like coal and other resources like even water. Understanding how water is trapped and how where water is in the earth can help us know where to put a well, or how we can find aquifers, things like that. So it's always important to understand what's going on in the world to understand where we can find things like resources.